Hey guys, welcome on an episode of Hey, I was in Star Wars with Daniel Romero. I know I said it so formal, but hey Danny, how's it going?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to finally see you again. I know the last time we saw each other was at Rebel Scum at Texas.
Yeah, Rebel Scum was a lot of fun. It was nice to see so many creators that were there too. A lot of the fans. It was my first time in Texas, but yeah, that was in June.
Yeah, it was in June.
Yeah.
How quick time flies.
Oh yeah, Texas was a lot of fun. I had a great time, especially like seeing all the different eras from Star Wars. I was freaking out. It
Yeah.
was funny because I was talking to one of the other castmates, and they said, "You're like a little kid. Like you're running around to every booth, just talking and smiling, and you're not walking. Like you're really like trotting along. I'm having a good time. Everyone's here, so I don't get to see everybody all the time."
Yeah, I will say, and I've said this numerous of times, that was the first con that I ever been to where the celebrities were super hyped to see the other celebrities that were there. And seeing you, Rory, Susanna, you guys were running around with your posters or collectibles and getting it signed by different people. And a few of us were sitting in the middle of the con and we were just watching, and I was like, these guys are all fans of each other. I go, and they're all running to each other's booths to say hi to each other on the last day. I was like, and they're just acting like normal little kids.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, it was definitely a good time. But for anybody who's watching this, Danny has been in two of the most iconic shows that are out in the past couple of years, which has been The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, which I know The Mandalorian between season 1, 2, and 3 were super hyped. And I love that season 3 focused more about, the whole creed, the Mandalorians, and how, the term this is the way, how it goes. Um, how did you get started in this whole industry? I know you were originally doing martial arts.
Yeah, so I mean, for Mandalorian, it actually had nothing to do with martial arts, unfortunately. All the stunts and all that, the cool credit, would actually go to Dan Stevens, who's actually the stunt double for Wolverine and Deadpool. He's like
Okay.
he's like a superhero, dude. Dan Stevens is legit.
Yeah.
Um, he's a great guy, really really nice. But all the martial arts and cool stuff, unfortunately, that goes to Dan Stevens. It's funny too because on set, since we share Daniel, the name we'd come in and I'd have something ripped or torn or broken, and they'd be like, "What happened?" "Oh, Daniel ripped it or he broke it," and I'd be like, "That wasn't me." Like unfortunately, like I didn't rip it. There was like I think the pants like down the crotch like ended up being ripped one day, so there was
Mm-hmm.
like a big seam stitched up on it, and they're like, "What happened?" Like I don't know. But when I got into Star Wars, I initially was asked to do it, season one. But at the time, I was doing a different TV show, and I was a pretty good regular on that show. So I didn't know it was Star Wars when I initially got asked. Um, so I missed that opportunity. But fate had a interesting way of coming back around, and I said one day, I'm going to get on Star Wars. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And little behold, I ended up getting called for Boba Fett. And I just did different characters on Boba Fett, and my the one that was most notably done was the one with Tamora Morrison when he's riding into town, and that little that nice shot where I'm kind of smacking those uh, stormtrooper helmets onto the spike, and even that scene was like a lot of fun because I looked around and it was just me and Tamora Morrison just like hanging out, and
He's like the nicest guy in the world.
yeah. And also like his stunt double too at the time like looked a lot like him. So I'm like, is that him? Is that not him? Like now there's two of them. Who is who? What's going on? But it was funny because in that scene they kept trying to get that stormtrooper helmet to like sit a certain way, and they kept changing the height and where it would land, and it was held up by a nail. So when we would do the shot, I would bring it down and let it sit, and then they pull me out. And like they'd readjust it until they liked it, but they wouldn't let me see where like the nail was after every time they changed it. So when I do it again, it would land in a different spot, and they'd be like, "Danny, like try to make it land over here." It's like, but you changed the nail. I didn't know how high you put it or where it was. I didn't want to break it or anything, but it kept landing differently than what they wanted. So after a couple of times, like, just give me a second, let me see where you guys put the nail again, so I could, make sure this lands properly and, get it going. And eventually we got it. We got it. So, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Uh, Later on, I ended up being called for Mando, and again, I didn't know, but I had a feeling. Um, but that one was more of for like a mercenary, and I thought, all right, cool. I'm gonna be a mercenary, like in Star Wars. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And a lot of the characters that or roles that I've done have been more or less into that kind of category. The weapons, military esque, police kind of roles. So mercenary wasn't anything new, and I was super excited. And I got to the studio and was like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna be a mercenary. This is clearly Star Wars. I recognize what's going on. And I get into the fitting room, and I see Mando's on the wall. I'm like, oh, cool. Like I guess we're gonna be hunting the Mandalorians. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Little by little, they start handing me armor to put on. I start recognizing, like, this is Mando armor. Like, are we fighting Mandalorians? Like, no, like you're gonna be a Mandalorian. And I was like, okay, don't freak out, don't freak out. You're gonna be yeah, all right, cool. So let's take a deep breath. Great. All right, cool. I didn't get my color yet. I didn't have a helmet, but they were just kind of sizing me up for the armor, so it was kind of fitted to us. And after that, fitting goes by. I was like, it's gonna be good. I finally get the set, and our set on set, it has a bin with our name on it,
Mhm.
just a row of boxes, or of tubs rather, of just Mandalorian armor. It had our names on it. And I get to my box, and in the moment it didn't feel like it hadn't hit me, you know? I was kind of just putting on the armor, just really eager and anxious to get on the set more than anything. And I put on the armor, I take the helmet, or actually I didn't get the helmet yet. I put the armor on, with the black robe on, cover up so no one could see us. And initially there was, I think, like 10 of us my first day. So we're all kind of like, showing each other little pieces of our robes and like, the different colors that we are. And we're like, oh, you got green. Oh, you got blue. I mean, I'm red. Like, what are we all different? What are we all doing? And nobody had their helmet yet because our helmets were actually, on location. So when they shuttle us over, those like moments in movies where like somebody gets handed the helmet and it's just like quiet and they're looking at the helmet, seeing the reflection in it, like
Yeah.
as they're walking to where they're going. I had that kind of moment. Like, all right, this is it. Like this is me. Like I'm this red one, and it's gonna be great. I'm excited. And my first scene, my first day was we're on Navarro after the pirates had just attacked the city, and the PA says, "Okay, guys, you're the heroes. You're gonna come through the smoke, over the fire, come out the other side looking like you just saved everything and the city people are going to greet you. And action. We come through the smoke around the fire, people are cheering, and cut. I mean, I was like, all right, cool. And then that's when it hit me. And I started to tear up a little bit in my helmet because I was like, that was it. Like, I'm actually a Mandalorian in Star Wars. Like, this, I never thought that this would be something that I would be doing, or something I'd always hoped for, just like anybody else, any other kind of fan. But to actually be a Mandalorian in such an iconic kind of series was amazing. It's indescribable. So I was really thankful for that helmet, and because I started to cry a little bit. Yeah.
See, like everybody always does like their first day on set, like they take that big deep breath and they're like trying to act all cool, calm, and collective. Me, like I wouldn't be able to contain myself. I'd be bawling my eyes out like a child, and then I'd be shaking the whole entire time because I would be freaking out, going, "Holy crap! I'm in Star Wars! Like I made it! Like I did so! Like like I'm doing something that I've always wanted to." But yeah, that's freaking awesome. And like, yes, like you said, I thankful that you had that helmet because they would have caught it on film that you were tearing up.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Even now, like looking back at it, it was I still think about it. I still get like a little emotional because it's something that every kid dreams of, and especially being a fan, you can only wish and hope to be a part of the universe. And even in Boba Fett, I was really thankful that I got to do such a small part, at least be in the universe, but being something that's super recognizable with my own armor, that's, kind of a whole nother thing that I'm really grateful for.
And, like you said it before when you started, like answering the question, I see it as the most common thread ever that everybody always states when they get the audition or they get the call to be in Star Wars, they never know anything of, what they're going into. That's awesome that it's always kind of like a secret, like a very secretive type of mission that they give you guys. So like when you arrive on set, you're just like, okay, what am I doing? And they guide you through the whole thing.
Uh,
So that's
yeah.
pretty cool that they do that. And like I get it, it's a whole bunch of secrecy. They don't want stuff going out, but at least it's nice that you guys are able to identify and look around and see that you are going to be part of Star Wars. So at least there's like little things that you guys know that it is part of Star Wars.
Yeah, and at the time, I think they kind of kept people who were in good standing with the company. They kind of, recycled them a little bit because I know some people who have been on most of the projects that have been filmed here.
Yeah.
4 of the 5. I did 2 of the 5. I think Roy did 3 or 4. But I know somebody who's done, most of them. So as long as you're in good standing, they would bring you back.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like like how Adam Sandler is always constantly bringing like his friends into the film. So it's kind of like you guys are part of this small little Star Wars family and they're like, "You know what? You did a good job. We're going to bring you back."
Yeah, it's yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
Now, if you had to pick
mm,
which one you enjoyed the most, would it be Book of Boba Fett or was it The Mandalorian?
The Mandalorian for sure, but they were both completely different experiences.
Okay.
In Boba Fett, like I said, I was just various characters who were around wherever they were traveling. In actually in Boba Fett, there was a scene where they had given me platform shoes that were really thick, the kind that you would see at Hot Topic, just really really thick platforms. They gave me those shoes, and they were like a size and a half too big, and they gave me like kind of a bald, not a bald cap, but like just a cap. And the scene was when I don't, do you remember when the Gamorrean guards are outside and like the pirates are like coming towards them and there's a train that kind of passes by?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a little scene in there that I think they cut it, but the villagers, we all see them coming towards us and they're like, all right, we all need you guys to scatter. But we were running in sand and my shoes are platforms and I was barely running. So the way I'm running is like you're trying to run outside of water, my legs are flailing everywhere and it's just not working for me. I think even once or twice I tripped. They're like, just keep going. Like, I'm trying to get up. I can't. And and I had done some other characters, on Boba Fett. One of the I can't even remember what they were. They were just various characters throughout the show. But being in Mando, like I said, Mando was its own character. It was the one that I got to do was its own personality that was carried through the entire season.
That's awesome. Now, have you watched all Star Wars films entirely?
Yeah, yeah. If you're about to quiz me, you got to give me a second. But yeah,
Well, I'm not
I've
no, I'm
watched.
not going to quit you. I was going to ask you what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh, episode 3.
Okay.
Episode 3. Yeah, episode 3 was my favorite. I like the song. It's called. It's the March on the Jedi Temple,
Okay.
but it's called.
Yeah,
It's based on love.
when Anakin's
Yeah,
walking into the Jedi temple to annihilate everyone.
yeah, yeah. And then we all every 5 years they make us relive Order 66, but
Yeah.
yeah. Episode 3 is my favorite. I have a fond memory of I remember the video game coming out a little bit before the movie or like around the same time as the movie.
Yeah.
So when I had gone to see it in theaters, I had already beaten the game. So I went to go watch it with my cousin and I was like reciting the entire movie and he's like, "Dude, shut up. You're ruining the whole plot and everything that's going on like just because you played." Oh yeah. And episode 3 was a lot of fun. Um Even for like my brother and I, we loved episode 3, but him and I share episode 1 more or less because episode 1 was more his era. Um, in episode 1, I remember us sitting in our backyard, just the two of us, like switching off roles and like doing Duel of the Fates. him fighting me as Darth Maul, but cancel for that one. Uh, as Darth Maul, and then him switching to Qui Gon and me switching to Obi-Wan, and then us kind of going back and forth and just kind of reciting that one together. Um, so that's a really fond memory that I have of that. But it's going to be episode 3 that I like the most.
Yeah, so for me, I grew up with all the vintage movies. But because I'm 37, so I actually went and saw, episode 1, 2, and 3 in theaters. And episode 3 for me is one of my top films. Like how you said it, I know that movie word for word. I've sat here in my living room before, like reciting it. And having my boyfriend look at me like I'm the biggest nerd that he's ever seen. And
Yeah.
he, like will say to me, like, how do you know all these words? And I'm like, because I've watched the movie like 50 freaking times. But yeah, it's one of those iconic films that, anybody from our age group that they absolutely love. They saw it in theaters, even though I already know the plot of it, I still always cry in the scene where Obi-Wan is talking to Anakin for one last time, and just how like all the film ends, but it hits you like it right in the feels.
Yeah, I think I still yell liar, like when someone says liar. But
Lord.
another one I started saying was from it's from Ahsoka when when they're the flashback for the siege on Mandalore,
Yes.
and he goes forward. Like those are the two things that I just yell constantly. Like what are you saying? It's like it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
Every
yeah.
time I think about that scene in like Ahsoka, I still remember like sitting in my living room and like ignoring people because I people watched it ahead of me and I was out to dinner with family and I kept messaging people. I'm like, please do not message me. Do not tell me what's going on. I'm hauling ass to get home. Don't say anything. And like I propped up my camera to get my reaction and just watching that whole entire episode, I was bawling because I watched Clone Wars as it came out. So it was like I was watching something that I grew up with. I could not stop crying like a little kid. And like I said, my boyfriend was in the next room because he didn't know anything about Clone Wars, so he didn't want to ruin watching Ahsoka. And he was like
Okay.
coming out of the room, just sticking his head out. And he was like, dude, are you okay? And I was like, don't talk to me. I was like, this show is amazing. I was like, I can't stop crying. But yeah, Siege of
Yeah.
Mandalore, definitely
Yeah.
one of the best episodes that I've seen in a while.
It was
But
great. Yeah, I had a friend who's a part of that scene as one of the clone troopers. Super jealous that he
oh,
got to do that one. So he's yeah, I always tell him like, dude, I need you to sign my poster. He's like, I'm a clone trooper. That's fine. You're still part of the universe. I need you to sign this poster for me.
yeah, just
So
sign
every
this
time
poster.
yeah, you never know.
And that's what I do. Like, so my favorite character, like my ultimate favorite character of all time is Ahsoka. So I've been going through like a small little journey where I've been getting every person who has played, if it's the voice, stunt, anything, any little small thing for Ahsoka, I've gotten it signed. So like I met Lauren Mary Kim. She signed a whole bunch of stuff for me. And she's like, but I'm not even Ahsoka. And I was like, in my eyes, you are Ahsoka. I was like, you were
Yeah.
the stunt double. You are Ahsoka in my eyes.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I
And it's great, like the last couple years, really you see the stunt team and like the production team get a lot more love for what they do. I mean, maybe it just might be because I'm a little bit more in the scene now,
yeah,
but I see a lot more, like seeing Judah and Marcus and their entire team get all the love that for what they've done, over for the shows. It's fantastic. And even the stunt team for what they do. Because they deserve just as much love as anybody else does, because they
oh, of
really make
course.
those characters what they are in terms of like action and the danger stuff. So everyone, it really is a collective kind of a thing for everyone to be a part of this thing. So when people say like they love the character that I did, it wasn't just me. I actually represent Judah and Marcus and Shauna, and her entire team, their hard work and being on screen. So I that's a lot of love to them as well. And I make sure people know that, I just got to play the character. I was fortunate enough to wear the armor, but the way it looks, that's Judah and Marcus and Shauna, that's all of them. So they do such a fantastic job. And again, Dan Stevens, another guy who, like I said, made it just as cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. I saw like once, like once the strike happened, I saw that a lot of people from like the stunt like the stunt world were, talking a lot about, like what they do. And I love the fact that everybody in the stunt department was getting recognition, because it is true. You guys are putting your bodies out there, for some of the some of the higher paid actors, and you guys should be also recognized as well. So I'm glad that the stunt, community is getting more love now as opposed to what we were seeing years back.
Oh yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Now, I know this weekend you did a 501st. It was like a fundraiser. How was that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Also, as you could tell, my voice is going up and down. I've been coming down with a cold, but it was a lot of fun. I've I haven't worked with the 501st a whole lot. In fact, I've worked. We haven't worked with Mendel Mercs a whole lot either. But like I said, over the past couple of years, I've been fortunate enough to be with some friends who are people in the 501st, and Raimi, who actually reached out to some of the community, or some of us rather, for Lisa, myself, and Rory, to just kind of jump on and just kind of like we're doing now, just talk a little bit more about our experiences. And it was a great time, just because, Lisa, myself, and Rory don't see each other a whole lot, like the three of us together a whole lot.
Hmm.
Rory and I do travel most of the time together to conventions, and we give our stories a lot together. But because just that dynamic duo is worked on screen between me and him, it's nice that it translates off screen as well. You hear a lot
Yeah.
of times that co-stars don't really get along, but Rory and I get along fantastic, and I think it was nice when we've had some people talk to us about the show, because me and Rory again are in a lot of scenes. They say, it looks like you guys get along pretty well and you guys are close. To see that relationship also off screen is kind of nice. And it's true. Rory and I are good friends, and as well as Lisa too. She was a great person to work with on set, and she's super nice. I want to get her out there, more in the Star Wars community, because people really love her armor. Once again, she was that the Shriekhawk with that stripe down her eye with one of the twins.
Yeah.
So she's super cool too, and we're all just super super honored and blessed to be a part of such an iconic thing, that we get to do these kind of podcasts and panels and just talk about our experiences that were on Star Wars, and hopefully inspire other people to hopefully do the same when they get the opportunity.
That's awesome. I like hearing that. So we talk about Mandalorians, and like I'm in the process right now of building my own Mando cosplay, which I've been like kind of stagnant about it, but finally like the rest of my props are arriving soon, so I'll be able to like paint them. But
Okay,
what does the Mandalorian creed mean to you in a personal sense?
man, bam, it's a heavy one. You know, I, that's a heavy one. I gotta think. No, um, so I have my helmets. I have my buckets, right? I'm very fortunate to have my buckets. And I have a couple iterations of the bucket, but I'll put it in like this. For me growing up, the people that I looked to were mostly the Power Rangers, right? I love the Power Rangers. That's my shtick.
Yep.
And I've been very fortunate to meet most of the cast, from the
Hmm.
original trilogy. Actually, no, I met the entire original trilogy, except for Ty. That's the only one. But the way that they treated me as a fan, before I got in any of all of this, was so unique and so nice that it made me feel just happy to be a fan. Like these are really nice people. Jason David Frank, David Yost, Steve Cardenas, Walter Jones. You know, um, Karen Ashley. I just recently met Amy Jo Johnson.
Oh, lucky.
At LA Comic Con. Yeah, and just the way that they've interacted, not just with myself but with other fans, just says something about how what kind of people they are. And they were super nice, and I can only hope to give back that same reciprocation of excitement to fans when they come meet me, right? So, and I thank them so much for that. And when we got into the scene, Rory said he wants to go to children's hospitals and take stuff to the kids, but he wanted to do it in his armor. And I said, "All right, Rory, I can't let you do that by yourself, so I'll go with you." And so he's close to getting his armor done. I'm close to getting my armor. I shouldn't say close, but about halfway done with my armor. Um, so we can actually do those kind of things. And to be in a position to share those such unique experiences with kids who see these characters as nothing more as something that's so special. It's like the universe is you know, we rephrase that. Now my mind is getting all over the place. But to be able to meet these kids in such a unique way, as characters that they love, is something that most people don't have the opportunity to. And because we do, I think it's kind of our responsibility to, go out there and just make these kids smile the best way we can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just being a Mandalorian for the stoic and the protection of people, but it's also sharing those unique experiences and making those kids feel excited and happy to, meet a real life Mandalorian, as some would say it. Um, the best way I can also describe it is, do you remember that scene with Tate where he's talking to us about going to Navarro and we're all sitting around the
Yeah.
fire? That's the best way I can describe how it feels. You know, it's Tate in the middle being like, this is what we have to do to protect this child. We need to go out there and just be Mandalorian because we are
Hmm.
Mandalorian. And I remember sitting in that scene and being like, man, like, yeah, I'm a Mandalorian. Like, let's go. Like, let's go. I'm ready to go, man. And Tate did an awesome job with that scene, and he even did it a couple times without his helmet because, um, they were shooting our perspective, or his perspective rather, to us. But yeah, it's such a unique thing and a privilege to, when people say like you're a real life Mandalorian, like yeah, but it, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm really thankful that I can do it.
Yeah. For me,
I know
like,
that was like all over the place.
oh no, dude, that's like one of the coolest explanations I've heard. No, for me, like, like anybody in like actual costume, like I love Darth Vader. I have a whole bunch of Darth Vader busts and stuff like that. But, like for me, when I was a kid, the first actual like live action character that I saw, like face to face was Boba Fett. I went to a party one time and a friend of mine, their parents were like big Star Wars fans. So they had somebody come to the party dressed up like Boba Fett. And when I saw
Oh,
the
wow.
whole costume, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I always told myself, like, if I ever wanted to like start building and do like an actual cosplay, like build it from scratch, I wanted to be a Mandalorian. I don't know why. I'm obsessed with the way it looks. Maybe it's because, like you're hiding your face and it's very, like Batman-ish, like superhero type. But, for me, like the same way you described it, like it's, you're helping with children, or, you're just, I love seeing that it was all about like a unity of family and stuff like that. And, like the
Yeah,
creed of just, wanting to unite and do stuff together as like one big family. So I've always loved that whole concept with the Mandalorians. And like I said, I'm pretty excited that I'm finally building one. And how funny that, you're the red Mandalorian and mine is actually a red Mandalorian as well.
cool. Yeah.
I'm doing like one of my favorite horror films is Dracula. I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I'm
Okay.
doing one called a Draculorian. So I'm doing the whole Vlad the Impaler armor, but it's going to be in a Mando suit.
Oh, wow. That's gonna be gnarly.
Yeah, so that's been taking me quite some time. I've gotten like the weapons are arriving soon, so like I gotta paint those, and then I gotta get the horns that are the original horns that go on Dracula's like actual mask, and I'm gonna
Okay.
add those to my Mandalorian bucket that I had that took me forever to spray paint and get it to like the consistent like blood red that I wanted it to get to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's gonna be fun. It's always cool seeing like the different mashups that people do for Mandalorians.
Yeah.
I've seen like, uh, I saw some really cool Power Ranger mashups, and I thought those were unique. One of the funniest ones I seen was an Oreo Mandalorian, and then like somebody did like a Pepsi Mandalorian. Like these are so cool. Like the uniqueness that people have, in creating their armor. And you know, a lot of the times when people tell me, like, again, going back to the Mandalorian thing, I think the people who make their own armor are the real Mandalorians. You know what I mean?
That's
Because like
awesome.
you put a lot of love and time into what you want to create, and you embody it when you put it on and you go to these conventions or events or whatever it is, you know? So there's no difference between me and them. The only difference, I mean, I'm on the show, sure, yeah, and I understand that difference, but in terms of like what it stands for and what the possibilities are, there
Hmm.
really isn't any difference, you know. So a lot of I always tell the guys who are like, you're a real Mandalorian, like guys, I think you're the real Mandalorians. You guys built your armor, you're out here taking photos with kids, you're making fans happy. I'm sure you guys would step up if you ever needed to, but you guys are just as Mandalorian as I am. So we're all Mandalorian.
We're all Mandalorians. We're all Mandalorians deep down in heart.
Oh yeah, of course.
Now, I know that you have a upcoming project that's coming up soon, and hopefully I'll be able to go watch it. So there's a fan-made film called Civil War, and I guess this is supposed to be about Mandalorians. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Civil War is done by fans for fans, of course. And the fun thing about it is there's a lot of people who are in the industry, who have worked on the projects, for Star Wars projects, who have not worked on Star Wars projects, who are a part of it. Um, our DP was from Maverick, I believe, worked
Okay.
on Maverick. And we also have a lot of the cosplayers, a lot of the Mandalorian cosplayers, which again goes back to they're the Mandalorians. Uh, it's if you want to look up anything that has been out or is out, it's on certain point of view fan films on Instagram, and I believe that's they have Civil War posted all over it. Um, yeah, so it's about two different clans that are kind of coming together. From my experience, coming in and playing a whole new character, being able to speak a little bit more was a lot of fun. I'm also super thankful that I got to meet some of the stunt team. And when I got there, my buddy Scott, who is also the creator and director, said, "Hey man, are you up to like do a fight scene?" I said, "Sure, yeah. What are we doing?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you're gonna do a little bit of a fight scene." Cool. So I'm all super nervous, right? Because I've always wanted to fight on camera. Like that's something I've always wanted to do, and I've never, just like anybody else, I never knew where to go. I never knew who to talk to. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't have any friends who did it. Um, and on the set, they introduced me to the stunt guys. And first thing he goes, "Hey, have you ever fought before? Like, do you know any martial arts?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, I do. We're good." He's like, "All right, cool. Like, here's the moves. Let's go through them. We'll see how it looks, and then we'll go from there." And John was the guy who good one of my friends now, set it up a little bit. 7, 8 beats, hit it. We're like, all right, cool. Yeah, looks fine. Go ahead and do it. But man, hats off to Latif because that visor is super thin, and I'm only doing a few steps here and there, and it's 8 beats stationary, and Latif is over here running, jumping, diving, shooting, and blocking. So, whole new respect to that whole stunt team for what they do, Um, and it came out super cool. And like that small altercation you can actually kind of see in some of the trailer stuff. But also, bringing in a lot of the Mandalorian cosplayers, you get to see a lot of unique armor now. You know what I mean? So it's really cool to be able to work with the community and to also work with industry professionals who are also on the project. Um, I told who did I tell? I told one of the guys who were out there. He's like, "What do you think it's going to be like? And do you think it's going to work out?" And I told him, "Look, everybody here is super passionate about Star Wars, and there's a lot of people who are really passionate about this project. And I think Scott is really ambitious for what he wants to do with this project. So when passion meets ambition, you're going to get something that's really unique and a lot of fun that people are going to enjoy. And I think that's what it is. It's going to be something that I think fans are going to love. And with the small stuff that we put out, people already like. So we only continue to hope that the end result is going to be something for everybody to really come together and enjoy and see on the big screen. And it should be done by late next year, I believe.
That's awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, I have So a certain point of view's Instagram page, I do have like the notifications and everything on alert with them because like as soon as they announce that it's ready, like I really want to see it. And it's cool. Like the concept, like you said, like I know you can't go into it, but I think it's really cool to see that it's gonna be a story about two different clans because we've never really had like, yes, we have the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian is based off of just Din Djarin's story. We haven't had just one thing that's just based off of, you know, side stories of other clans and how they got to be and like why certain clans don't mess with other clans. So just to see a whole film just based off of Mandalorians, I think is pretty iconic. So I definitely cannot wait to see that. And if you can at least answer it, what color is your Mando in this film?
Blue.
Okay.
Blue. Yeah. Yeah, it's
All
blue.
right. So we'll look for
Yeah.
Team Blue if anybody is watching, gets ready to watch this film.
I think the helmet that I get to wear this time also once again, was made by Judah and Marcus, who painted and sculpted it. I'm really thankful that I get to represent their work again on screen. But from my understanding, it was a concept initially. The bucket that I got to wear was a
Hmm.
concept for Paz,
Oh,
and it just
wow.
didn't work out. And they went with obviously what we see now. So to have such an interesting helmet once again, is an honor and it's a privilege that I get to wear these kind of things, and I'm really thankful for everything that's happened, over the past couple of years, especially with Star Wars and all the projects and the friends and the relationships that I've been able to build, you know.
So I've never got to ask this question to anybody, so I feel like you'll be the perfect one to ask. Now,
Sure.
does the man make the bucket or does the bucket make the man?
Does the man make the bucket or the bucket make the man? I would say the man makes the bucket just because these are two different characters that I've had the privilege of doing, right? One character, this is kind of a fun thing. I was thinking about this yesterday. For Mando itself, I brought a lot of the other characters that I had the privilege of doing. A lot of the military stuff that I had done before. So that's kind of what I brought into Mando season 3. Just the walking, the rifle holding, things like that. For Civil War, the way I thought about it was like, and this isn't like a canon thing, this is just kind of how I wanted to think about it. I
Hmm.
wanted to play it as like a young Paz and like what might have turned him into what he is now. Like how he would have been. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So even though I was kind of wearing something that kind of resembled him, I didn't want it to so much be him, but in my mind, that's how I wanted it to come across as. So
Okay.
I wanted to make the bucket instead of the bucket making me. Yeah.
I know. I was like thinking that and I was like, wait a second, I've never asked this question before. So I was like, let me ask now.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you'll be
Yeah,
the
because
only one I ever.
no, definitely ask more people. That's a fun question, but because we talked about this. When you a lot of the costume actors, some characters, are the first time being on screen. Especially with such big expanding universe. So
Hmm.
in retrospect, the person has the freedom to make that character however they can, and if it's on screen, then that more or less becomes canon. So the person behind the suit is more or less making the bucket or making the helmet,
Okay.
depending on the character.
Now, I know that you were doing a whole bunch of cons. I know that you are actually going to be coming to Florida soon because friends of mine
Yeah.
were sending me flyers. But yeah, you're coming to Fort Myers, right? It's I think
Yes.
it's yeah in Fort Myers. Do you have any
Fort
more like
Myers.
up? Do you have like any more upcoming events coming on?
I have a couple. One Fort Myers in January. I know I have another one in March. I don't remember where that is. Luckily it's a couple months away, so I have a couple times to figure it out. But even last year, around December, January is when things kind of really picked up and we started booking through the year. Just like now, it was like one or two events um, that we had planned, and in January, the rest of the year filled up. So as of right now, just Fort Myers is the biggest thing. Uh, that's on the horizon, and in March I have to figure out. You know what? I can tell you right now. I have a planner that I don't look at.
I know I just
That's
downloaded one on my phone, so I'm like, all right, I have to start adding stuff on there. That's when you know you've hit like adulthood, when you got to start
uh,
making like a planner.
well, I like. I'm a very not detailed. I like technology to like
Organization. Okay.
there. Yeah, yeah. Um, all Comic Con in Dallas, Texas, March 13 to 16.
Okay. So you're coming back to Texas.
Yeah, and then whatever might happen down the road. You never know. Hopefully
Okay.
something May the 4th. Hopefully back to Rebel Scum. You never know. Like I said last year around this time, we didn't start booking our stuff until January. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's neat because in the network of all of us, we send each other stuff, based on like whatever the promoter's looking for. Are you looking for Jawas? Are you looking for Mandos? Are you looking for the droids? Some troopers, Tuscans. Like, who are you looking for that I can reach out to get to get them on board? So it's you never know, you never know. But I have high hopes. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good year. 2024 is a good year. I'm sure 2025 is gonna be just as much fun. Being able to get out there and meet everybody.
That's awesome. Now, I always like to end my segment with asking, anybody that I've interviewed before, if there's any piece of advice for anyone that kind of wants to get into the same industry as you are in, what advice would you give them? Like steps on what to do, or just, like anything that would give them, proper motivation to just pursue what they want to do.
Just get on set. Just find a way to get on set. There's opportunities everywhere to get on set. You can't constantly look for the project because you never know what the project is going to be. You never know what project you're going to be on. You never know who's going to see the project that you end up working on. So always try to do as many projects as you can, obviously within reason, and do your due diligence. But just get out there. Um, find something you're good at, and find somebody who's even better than you at that one thing, and find yourself a mentor, find yourself some friends, a community that you can jump into. LA's full of them. Instagram is full of them. Start DMing people, whatever you can to just make acquaintances and make friends in that kind of community because you never know what's going to happen. For example, like on Civil War, I met some the stunt guys and I started coming down to train in their fight choreography class because that's something I've always wanted to get into. Just like so many people who are like, where do I go? I've been acting for like 6, 7 years. And I've always been like, "Oh yeah, I want to do fight choreography," and I never knew anybody who wanted to or who did fight choreography to that level.
Hmm.
And eventually, I found some good friends who teach and do their thing and who are actively working. So there's always opportunity to find something, but like I said, find a group, a community, find some mentors, any way you can, and find them, make sure they're better than you, and just learn. Just be a student and be open to learning. And that's all.
Okay. I like that. Well, I really appreciate that you've been on with us. I know that you're sick, and I really appreciated that you've been like sticking it out, or should
Oh,
I
thank
like
you.
to say it? You've been thugging it out with the
Oh,
cold. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, best platform is Instagram, correct?
yeah, Instagram, my DMs are open. I generally answer the DMs just to kind of hang out and talk Star Wars a little bit. But yeah, on Instagram is always the best way to reach me.
All right. So yeah, guys, I'll put all his information down below. So you guys can reach out to him if you guys need anything, or if anybody wants to book him to come to any of their states or comic book shops or cons. I'll also put the link down below to Civil War so you guys can be on alert to know when the film is actually going to be dropping, so you guys can check it out. But Danny, thank you so much for hopping on. This was great. I know we had a lot of fun hanging out at Rebel Scum, and like it was just overwhelming being like to hang out with a whole bunch of people, especially like that one Saturday night where everybody was just hanging out at the lobby afterwards. And like I remember looking at the time going like, oh my God, I still gotta drive to my hotel. Like everybody is hanging out.
That was a good time. Hopefully we get to do it again this summer.
Yeah, hopefully we all get to do it again this summer. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to be taking a break due to the holidays coming up. In January, myself and Tierra are actually going to be flying over to New Orleans to do a panel for Fan Expo New Orleans. So you guys can stay tuned for that. And I will pick up schedule starting at the end of January. So I'll be making announcements. But again, Danny, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you guys for watching. And may the force be with you. Bye, guys.
Bye.